Hey guys, John Gehring here. Just going to pick up where we left off in the last video and load the Being Hunted save game that we did. If you recall, what had just happened is we had just struck this freighter with a torpedo, which we can see here. There it is. It's currently paused, and so it's in the process of sinking. But off to about 65-degree bearing from us, there's a destroyer who then pinged us already once with its sonar, is now going to be hunting us. So I just want to have this video be on what do you do when you're being hunted by a destroyer or by more than one destroyer. So before we unpause, let me just explain. So this destroyer is going to be trying to ping us actively with sonar pings, which is basically sound waves that it sends in a certain direction, and then it'll echo off of our ship if it hits us with this sonar, and that will tell it where we are currently, and it'll keep doing this. So if we're traveling, let's say in this direction, and it keeps pinging us, then it basically will be able to project, okay, he must be traveling similar to how we project it for Praetors. He must be traveling at such and such a speed in such and such a direction. It'll try and get in front of us and then drop depth charges over where we are at. So I could actually, for just demonstration's sake, let's go ahead and do that. Let's be traveling here at slow speed ahead, and then you'll just watch us be sunk. Here we go. Every few seconds, this destroyer is now pinging us to see where we're at. So since we are a very easy target at 40 feet depth, and we're obviously doing this so that we can see what it's like to be sunk, it's not going to have any problem finding us and pinging us, and it's going to keep doing this. So at some point, it gets nice and close. It has now been pinging us, and it definitely knows our trajectory. So it's so close that we can now tell it's like basically right over us. So normally you'd want to do evasive maneuvers, but instead we're just going to let it. Depth charges here, so you see what it looks like. Depth charges dropped, and boom, hit twice, and we're dead. So there you go. That's what'll happen if you don't evade a destroyer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our thermal layers, or a thermal layer report. This is a bathy thermographic report. In the campaign and the full version, this actually will vary based on where you are on the globe, what time of year it is, what time of day it is, how close you are to the coast, various things like that. So, and what this is this is the temperature of the water based on how deep you are within the water. And what you will find often, depending on the weather, that's another factor, is that you'll have this layer. So this down to about 80 feet, it's about the same temperature. And then the water gets colder till about 140 feet. And after about 140 feet, it once again stays roughly the same temperature. What this means is this layer down here is actually colder than this layer up here. And what that means is when a destroyer tries to ping us, what will sometimes or often happen is the sonar ping will just bounce off the colder layer of water. So this is actually very helpful, because if we can dive down to about 150 feet, then we're on a lower thermal layer, which will give us a much higher probability of not being detected. So we're going to combine those two things together, that we're still paused, and we're going to dive down to 150 feet. So give the command here like that. You can move this around, by the way, if you want. Put it wherever you want, but we're going to leave it right here. And we're also going to turn so that we're not giving a broadside to the destroyer. Now remember, we see the destroyer on this sight line, so it's going to be headed toward us. So we're going to move away from it like that, and we're going to go ahead, since it's pinging anyways and it kind of has us located, we don't need to worry about our sound. So we'll just go flank speed ahead to turn away from the destroyer, and we're going to also be diving down to 150 feet as soon as we possibly can. So, and we're going to lower our periscope. So all of that is prepared now while we pause. We'll unpause. So down goes our periscope, and we're going to go ahead and speed up. 4-time time compression. Now we were pinged once, pinged again, pinged again. Now we're still diving, of course. So right now it's located us at this position. And it's also locating the fact that we're diving. So it's going to be able to project that we're currently diving. Now, what our hope is once we get down to about 150, Now we're at a lower thermal layer, and our hope is that it is not going to be able to pick us up from here on. Now you'll notice, since we dived below this thermal layer, we have not yet been hit. Now, we were hit. It's not obviously a perfect protection, but we are now basically giving a narrow profile to the destroyer. And so it has now picked us up. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the time compression again. Okay, real quick, that was a yellow ping. What that is that's what's a so-called dirty ping. What that means is the sonar did hit us, but it was dispersed enough that the destroyer only knows we're somewhere in this area, but it's not really able to locate us with that last ping. So all it has to go on so far are the last couple of pings that it had. So we're going to go ahead and keep going in the direction we were. Another dirty ping. Oh, now that was a good ping, which of course is bad news for us. We're going to go ahead and go a bit deeper. Anything below 200 is dangerous, and anything below 250 is very dangerous. That's why we have the yellow and the red. Now, notice it's headed roughly in the right direction, but it hasn't pinged us in a while, so it may be uncertain. So we're going to keep going in the same direction that we were going in and just let it hopefully travel right over top of us. As we can see, it's kind of behind us, and we would be able to hear this if we're in the boat, with basically that the boat is, that the destroyer is kind of right above us. And it's kind of lost track of where we are because we have not been pinged in a while, and it looks like it's taking a right turn up in that direction. So let's go ahead and once again turn so that our tail is, our rear end is pointed right at the destroyer to keep a narrow profile. The destroyer, if it can't ping us, will at some point slow down and listen. So now's probably a good time for us to slow way down and go only 1/3 ahead, just in case it starts using its hydrophone to listen to where we are at. If you listen really careful in the background, you might hear that little ringing. That's because it is still pinging. It's just not hitting us. So we're able to hear that within the ship, but it's not been hitting us yet. Partially because we're on the lowest thermal layer, or we're underneath that thermal layer. So this is actually looking pretty good. We're sneaking our way away, and we're just hoping we won't get hit by a ping. So we'll go ahead and speed it up here. So here we are, just a few minutes later, and now, as you can see, the detection level has dropped to 0, which is a good sign for us. It means that the destroyer has no idea where we are. We are not able to disengage yet, which means he's still kind of hoping he can find us, so we need to keep going. But it's looking really good because he really has no clue where we are. So we continue to sneak away. And now the disengage button is active, which means we can disengage, and it means we made it. It says not achieved here because we didn't wait for the other ship to sink. But anyways, we made it, and that is what we're trying to do. If there's more than one destroyer, then what ends up happening is one of the destroyers will be the hunter, and the other destroyers that are in the convoy will begin circling where they think you are, almost like sharks. And they'll be pinging all the while the hunting one is trying to come in to drop depth charges on you. And it gets really tricky, and you need to then basically be able to quickly evade as soon as a destroyer does a depth charge run. I've had such a blast making this game. I hope you guys are enjoying playing the demo. You can wishlist it on Steam, play the encounter mode and the tutorials for free in the demo, and then soon I will be releasing a full version with an entire campaign. I'll just show you real quick what that looks like. You end up having a whole Pacific map, and you can be traveling around, going to patrol zones and finding convoys and lots of cool stuff like that. So wishlist on Steam, try out the demo, and I'll see you later with another video.